So tomorrow you will have to solve algebraically and show all your steps. So if you decide to write, oh, I did it in Desmos, that doesn't count. You can't. Plus, a lot of you don't even know how to interpret your answer in Desmos. So just stop using that as a starting place. Use it to like check your answer, not as a starting place. And it is going to be kind of a difficult inequality. So do you need help with all of number 2 or? Yeah. Okay. So let's start with inequality A. There's lots of fractions in it. How can you make any fraction not a fraction anymore? Multiply by the denominator. Notice I have 2 denominators, 5 and 10. If you are able to think of what you can multiply by to eliminate both in one step, then great. Or you can just eliminate them like one at a time. So what would you guys multiply inequality A by? To eliminate one or both of the denominators. I remember we said to get rid of a denominator, you just need to multiply by it. So what do you want to multiply inequality A by? And there's tons of ways you could solve. Just we need to pick a way. How can we make there not be fractions anymore in inequality A? What can we multiply by to make it not a fraction anymore? What did you say, John? You say it louder. 5 could work. It won't eliminate both of them, but it'll at least eliminate the one that is on the left. So let's start by doing that. So when I do that, you have to multiply everything by 5. I'm multiplying the whole thing by 5. When I do that to the first term, it just becomes x minus 4, right? Because timesing by 5 and dividing by 5 cancels out. I don't need to flip the sign because I'm multiplying both sides by a positive 5. And then don't forget to multiply the 5 to both terms over here. All right, really, we also multiplied it to this first term too. So then I get 5x over 10. And then what's 5 times 3? 50. Now you have a couple options here. You could now multiply the whole thing by 10 to get rid of this fraction. Or what does 5 over 10 reduce to? 1/2, which is a decimal that ends. So you could decide to make it, instead of 5 over 10x or 1/2x, you could make it 0.5x. If you don't believe me that that's what it reduces to, try it in your calculator. 5 over 10 is 0.5. And then you get something like this, which is much easier to solve. So when you're solving, you follow the steps, distribute if necessary, combine like terms if necessary. That's not necessary right now. So then move on to step 3, which is move the variable to one side. It does not matter which one you decide to move. So would you rather move the x or the 0.5x? Okay, if I want to move the x, how do I make it cancel? Subtract it. And whatever you do on one side of the symbol. Now you're allowed to do that. Personally, I would rather move the smaller one so that it's less likely I'll have to worry about a negative. But you should still get the same answer as long as you're not breaking any of the rules. So 0.5 minus 1, because that's what's in front of the x, is negative 0.5 x. You get negative 0.5x plus 15. Now it's all about getting the x alone. So start with what's farther from the x. Would that be the negative 0.5 or the 15? What's physically farther from the X? The 15, because the 0.5 is like right up against it. So 15's farther. How do I make that cancel? Bronze it up. How do you make a 15 cancel? Subtracting it would make it cancel. Adding it would make it 30, and that defeats like what we're trying to do. We wanted to cancel. What's -4 minus 15? Feel free to use a calculator. Don't have to memorize all your math facts anymore. You can use a calculator. -19 greater than -0.5x. Now, what's opposite of multiplying -0.5? Dividing. And whatever you do on one side of the symbol. Now, do I need to flip the sign when I do that? Yes, no. You do need to flip the sign. Why do I need to flip the sign? Anytime you divide a negative on both sides or multiply a negative on both sides, you need to flip the symbol. So note that. This is now less than instead of greater than. And this you put in your calculator with the -19 divided by -0.5. All right. Did you put divided by? Okay. Sounds like you put add. A positive 38 is what you should get from typing that in your calculator. So then you get that 38 is less than X, or if you wrote X is greater than 38, that is also correct. The opening should be facing the X. Question? You sure? Okay. Questions about this one? We still have to do inequality D, but questions about inequality A, how we solve that. And there are other ways, but you know you're right if you get the same final answer. All right, then let's look at inequality B, which is another challenging inequality to solve, but you still just follow your steps. And I want to say that it was lesson 21 when we wrote down the steps, but I don't remember. Maybe it was even earlier than that. So if that's my inequality B, what does my first step need to be? What's the first step in any solving situation? And what do you mean by that?
Distribute.
So distribute if necessary is your first step in solving. Can I distribute in inequality B?
Yes.
Yes, sorry, this is lagging, so I'm gonna have to do it from back there. You can actually distribute twice. So when you see a number outside parentheses being multiplied by it, then you take the term outside and multiply it by all the terms inside. So you'll be distributing a -3 here. And over here, what are you distributing? What's right here, even though it's not written? And it's a -1, and that does make a difference, so make sure you remember that. So the 5x is still there. What's -3 times x? -3x should not take that long to know that. -3 times 6? -18. Less than or equal to the 8 is still there. What's -1 times x? Good. You could write -1x. I'll just write -x. And then what's -1 times -7? A +7, so put +7. So distribute first if necessary is your first step. Usually after distributing, you have to do this. What is it? Combine like terms. So first, just look at the left side of the inequality. Do I have any like terms here? Five x and negative 3x. If they have the same variables, then they are like terms. So what's 5x minus 3x? 2x. All right, the minus 18 doesn't have a like term, but you still need to write it down. Now look on the right side. Do I have any like terms on the right side? What are they? 7 and 8. So any single numbers with no variables at all, you can always combine. What's 8 plus 7? 15. And then the minus x is still there. Now we need to move the variable to one side. I suggest moving the smaller one because then it's less likely you'll have to work with the negative, but it's up to you. Do you want to move the 2x or the negative x? And how will I cancel the minus x? Whatever you do on one side of the equal sign. And technically it's an inequality, not an equal sign, but same difference. 2x plus x is 3x minus 18 less than or equal to 15. So far, we've not done anything where we need to flip the sign. But anytime you do stuff on both sides, just kind of check. Now start with what's farther from the x. Would that be the 3 or the 18? And how do I cancel that? Whatever you do on one side of the symbol. So then I get 3x less than or equal to 15 plus 18, which is 33. Opposite of multiplying 3 is whatever you do on one side. Do I need to flip the symbol when I do that? No, because I divided a positive. So my answer is going to be x less than or equal to what? And you could have also written down 11 greater or equal to x, and that still be right, because 11 is still bigger. Questions on that? All right, so, I mean, I'm doing this for you. I saw a lot of people not writing it down, so I'm hoping that means you got it right the first time yourself. But otherwise, you know, we got to keep going. What other questions do we have from any of the study guides? Louis? 3 on the puzzle piece one? Okay. Oh, on this one. Okay. So number 3, your word problem. Anytime you read or anytime you have a word problem, just read it once to see what you're supposed to do and then read it again and try to find the total. So suppose you buy flour and cornmeal in bulk to make flour tortillas and corn tortillas. Flour costs $1.50 per pound, cornmeal costs $2.50 per pound. You want to spend less than $25 on flour and cornmeal, so you need at least 6 pounds altogether. And so read it once. Then it says, create a system of equations. So system means you need to have how many? 2. And it says equations or inequalities. I'm telling you now, our focus on this part of the unit has been only inequalities. So please, make them systems of inequality. But you should be able to tell based on the signal words around the totals. So table 6, can you tell me what one of my totals is in this one? 25. So then see what's surrounding that 25. If you want to spend less than 25, all right, the other part we'll write over here what we're actually spending. Should I use this symbol? No, because then we're spending more than 25 and it needs to be less than. If I have to spend less than 25, can I spend exactly 25? No. If you want to spend less than 25, then it can't be 25. So you should use this symbol, not with the line. We'll put what goes over here in a second. Table 7, what's my other total for this? For this word problem? 6, because it says you need at least 6 pounds altogether, so that would be a total. And look at what surrounds that total. You need at least 6. So does that mean I am allowed to have more than 6? So then use that symbol. Am I allowed to have exactly 6? So then put it with the line underneath that. That makes it easier to figure out what needs to go here. So for example, when it's talking about money, what's contributing to that $25? Prices and however much you're buying. So what needs to go on the other side of the 25? Part.
150
Okay, anything else?
and 250.
All right, now that alone isn't gonna give me what I need, so what else needs to go there?
Variable.
All right, now what do you want your variables to be and what are they representing?
150 for F.
So 150x,
Yeah.
is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay, because you don't want the 150 to be x because like 150, like we already know, x is supposed to be like an unknown or something that varies, right? So it's 150 per what?
Pound.
Pound of flour.
Yeah.
So you also have to define your variables, so make sure you do that. X can be pounds of flour. And yeah, you would times it by the cost per pound, so it's gonna be 1.5x. What other variable do you want to use?
One.
Y, and what will it be for?
Pounds of cornmeal.
Pounds of cornmeal. And how do I incorporate it over here?
Y.
Where?
250.
Okay. Because it's 250 per pound. So if you buy 1 pound, it's 250. If you buy 2 pounds, it's $5. Like you're multiplying times however many you're buying. And then combine, so combine means add, put a plus sign in between these. Combine, that needs to be less than 25. Does that make sense? Okay. Now we said X is pounds of flour, Y is pounds of cornmeal. What needs to go on this side of the 6?
Y.
And what will they be doing with each other?
Adding.
Okay, perfect. That's how you make your system of inequalities is what it should be. And don't forget, it says define the variables you use. So if you don't, you're letting me take away 5 points. So make sure you tell me what the variables represent. All right, so did you need help with part B as well?
Yes, please.
Okay. So you made your system of inequalities. You know that the solution to a system of inequalities is where the shading does what, class? The solution to a system of inequalities is where, not just, I think I know what you mean, but where the shading overlaps, to be more specific. So in that last part, it gave you the lines for your system. Like if you graph these, you'll see the same lines. I will say that one of them is solid when it should be dashed, but that's like my mistake, so don't worry about that. The lines are in the same spots that they're supposed to be in. What you need to do is shade all the points that meet both constraints. So it's up to you. You could do it by hand, arranging them into slope-intercept form and then following your rules. Or you can use Desmos and see where the shading overlaps and then shade that. So what would you rather do? Okay, so then also don't forget, if you forget how to use Desmos, I can't help you with it during the test. So make sure you practice it yourself. But for Desmos, you just type it in. You don't have to rearrange it to slope-intercept form. All right, but I typed in my 2 inequalities. Notice the way that this graph is set up. We're just looking at the first quadrant where all the numbers are positive. So let me go like this way. Doesn't this look like my graph, like the lines?
Yeah.
Granted, this should be dashed, but that's my fault. What you need to fill in is the correct shading. So where on this thing on my practice test do I need a shade? In the middle of the two lines, which you can tell in Desmos is darker in the middle. That's where my solutions are that meet both. Does that make sense? Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So anything between these two lines is a solution. All right, any questions from any of the study guides? Okay, going once. Brooklyn?
Number 1.
All right.
Right.
Not the optional one, right? This one?
Yeah.
So solving algebraically. What's the first step? We wrote out these steps before. If you need to write them out again, go ahead. I'll write them out too. But when you see this in an equation or inequality, you should do it first. What is it? Distribute. So distribute if necessary. You won't always have to because it won't be there. But if you can, then you should. So when it's set up like this, a number outside parentheses, you multiply it by both the numbers inside. What's 8 times W? Okay, and 8 times 12? 96. Everything else is still there. So just copy it over. All we did was distribute. What's step 2? Combine like terms if necessary. So combine like terms if necessary. Do I need to in this one? I don't need to in this one. When you look on the left, there's nothing I can combine. When you look on the right, there's nothing I can combine. So then you move on to step 3, which is to do what? Division.
You say?
What's step 3? After combining like terms, you move variable to one side. Good. Sometimes it's already on one side, but if it's not, you need it to be on one side. It does not matter which one you move. You want to move the 10W or the 8W? And how will I make the 8W cancel? Whatever you do on one side of the symbol. So that cancels it on the right. On the left, I have 12, and notice I lined it up with its like term. What's 10W minus 8W? And it's positive, so I'm gonna put plus 2W. I don't flip the sign when I subtract, so leave it alone. Greater than or equal to 96. Now, step 4 is just about isolating the variable. So that means look at what's being done to it and do the opposite. Starting with what's farther from it. So would that be the 2 or the 12? How do I cancel this 12? Whatever you do on one side. I get 2W greater or equal to 96 minus 12, which is opposite of multiplying 2 is, and then do that on both sides. Sorry. Do I need to flip the sign when I do that? No, because it's positive. Leave the sign alone. What's 84 divided by 2?
42.
So then my right answer is, on my page, it's A, probably different on your page, so. Pick the one that is
Right.
greater or equal to.
Oh,
I don't. Add it. Why don't I just add what?
If you add all that.
Or do that, as I'm on can. Like, if you do the. I know it, right? Okay.
And it's a lot less complicated.
Okay, well, make sure you follow those steps. I know those steps will get you the right answer every time.